Good morning from Barton Springs Mill. James Brown here. We thought we'd bring you along for a quick tour of one of our mills from the inside. This is the first time we've had Mill A, our oldest mill from Osttiroler, open, completely disassembled. I got Keith with me here, our lead miller here in the mill room, and we're taking this as it goes. There's not a lot of professional help that you can get with these. It's definitely a DIY type situation, but we give tours of the mill all the time and talk about what's going on inside the mill, and this gives us a great opportunity to sort of show you what's going on. So stand by and we'll take you on a quick tour here. Okay, here's a look on the inside. This is our bed stone. This is stationary. And you can see, we talk a lot of times about this pattern. If I can get in the raking light here, you can see this pattern here that's cut. These are what are called the furrows. And as the grain drops down through the hole in the upper stone, these wiper blades help to transmit it out towards the perimeter of the stone. And once it gets out to here, you have similarly but mirror image grooves cut on the upper stone. So there's sort of a scissoring or clipping action. Right angle of the groove on the bed stone is on this side. On the runner stone, it's on the other side. So it's almost like scissoring, clipping of the grains as they are initially ground. Then they get up onto what are called the lands, these raised portions here where it gets ground into fine flour. Eventually, it makes its way out to the edge here and falls off. And the runner stone here, which is currently upside down, has these wiper blades on it that bring that flour around and deposit them out the chute. So this system's fairly complicated. We're changing bearings out today. There's a ring bearing in here. And then there's a thrust bearing. You can get it to focus here. A thrust bearing on the bottom and a ring bearing that go on here, and they sit in an oil bath. It's covered by a dust cover. So all of the weight of that upper stone, which is about 1,500 pounds, rests on that thrust bearing. We made it 7 years on one set, so I guess we should count ourselves lucky. This is also our gantry. We put this on the forklift. There are holes in the perimeter, 2 holes in the perimeter of the stone that allow us to be able to lift the stone up and put it back on that spindle right there, hopefully, without too much trouble. Then we can put our hopper back on, and hopefully today we'll be back to working. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this brief tour. We're going to get back to work and hopefully get this thing working today. Have a good day. Here's a quick look at what I call the gimbal that's in the top of the runner stone. It's bolted and epoxied into each side of the stone. The conical shaft goes here. There's a reference pin here. That pin makes sure that we get our wiper blade in this orientation to match that cutout. So there's our reference pin, there's the wiper blade. Those have to go in that slot so that we don't grind it up. We found that pivot to be super sticky, so we've put some appropriate lube on it. So underneath here, this is a first cover. Below that, there's a second cover just inside here. In there we found, and this is the way they've done it forever, grease with rags, which acts as sort of a dust barrier to keep dust from infiltrating into the bearing area here. This whole assembly is a giant laminated construction wood block that goes around the perimeter that's glued into this bed stone. We lifted a little too hard on it and ended up breaking the block, the ring assembly free. So word to the wise, don't do that. Make sure that you just lift just enough to break the shaft free from this conical conical fitting right there. It's just held on there. Once you remove the eccentric knob that's spinning up here, that's all that's holding the stone in place. And that and this reference pin is making sure that it stays spinning. Here's the oil bath and assembly that holds those two bottom bearings. Here's our sleeve bearing. Nice new one ready to go. And then we've got our 4-piece thrust bearing down here. That shaft fits into that, and the majority of the weight, essentially all the weight of that shaft and upper stone, are riding just on that single bearing. And these 3 bolts here allow us to come in and engage this outer sleeve and adjust the tilt of the shaft to balance the upper stone. Now that makes perfect sense, except that that's not your only point of pivot. You've also got a point of pivot in there. So we find a lot of times when we're trying to adjust this, we'll get it just about perfect, and then that pivot point will break over and then we're out of balance again. So it's a lesson in frustration, but we'll see how it goes today. The whole point of this gimbal with these 2 pins is that we can relatively easily spin this stone around, put the working side up so that if we need to sharpen the stones or address the cutting surface, we can do that. So it just spins, as you'll see here in a minute, it spins pretty easily on that. You want to be careful. It's somewhere around 1,500 pounds swinging around in the air.